Welcome, students. We're going to take some notes on bill to law process. How does a bill become a law? As you can see with this diagram right here, a bill can either start in the House or it can start in the Senate. If it starts in the House, 435 people need to vote on the final process. If it starts in the Senate, 100 people need to vote on the process. And then it'll flip houses and it'll begin again. The House is the only one that can start a tax bill. Otherwise, a bill can start in either House or Senate, but then you need a reviewing of the other House to come up with a compromise, and then it goes to the President either for signing or for a veto. So let's look at the first process, bill to law process. A bill is known as a proposed law. Where do bills come from? Bills are ideas from the people, needs of the nation. First action would be to name and number the bill. The numbers, if it's an HR bill, it originates in the House of Representatives, Congress. If it's an S bill, then it starts in the Senate. But then there's also a name given to it, whether it's the Brady bill or whether it's the Defense of Marriage Act. Those are examples of that. Standing committees will be set up, and these standing committees, these subcommittees, also with the standing committees, can break down workload, hearings, meetings, report back to the full committee. There's just committees, but the standing committee, they act as a filter. They consider bills and either kill it or they report those they find worthy. So those committees may hold hearings and mark up bills. As you can see right here, some bills are over 2,000 pages long. So that's why you have these subcommittees to read through and to help with the process. Second step is the Rules Committee. You can either have an open rule, amendments may be made on the floor, or a closed rule, no amendments, no changes can be made. Restrictive rule, amendments may be made on some sections but not others. These rules committees, they can set the conditions, the speed up the bill, they can give the bill an open rule. So having an open rule is increasing the likelihood that this bill will pass because these bills do have a high mortality rate. Most bills will not pass. But if you don't want any changes, then you would have a closed rule on there. Or if you're okay with some changes but not others, then it's restrictive rule. The third process is for floor action. This is where actually the debate happens. Debating and voting by either the House or the Senate will happen here on the floor action. Chairman starts the debate. Limited debate in the House, usually 1 hour, and must be relevant to the bill. Unlimited in the Senate, filibusters possible. Speech does not have to be relevant, and that's where individuals in the Senate can slow down the process of the bill if they don't like it by filibustering. A filibuster is an attempt to talk a bill to death so that nobody's able to vote on it. Cloture rule limits debate by a vote of 60 senators. So make sure that you write those terms down there. You can pause the notes if you need to. Fourth step is switching houses. After being passed in the first House of Congress, whether it's the Senate or the House of Representatives, the bill must be approved in the second House. So the bill is introduced in the second House, assigned to a committee, and the process begins once again. Standing committees will review unique bills that pass the other House of Congress. Fifth step is floor action. Each House will vote on bills from the other House or compromise bills. Presiding officer will run the floor and voting. So You've already had floor action originally with the bill, but then floor action happens again, but with the second house that is voting. So if it started in Congress and their floor action, then it will go to the Senate and they will have their floor action. Sixth step is a conference committee. Conference committee will take similar versions of House and the Senate bills and work out a compromise bill. This is where the differences between the two bills are discussed and a final version agreed upon. So this is probably the most important step. If the bill has made it this far, it has a likelihood of passing, but the bill will most likely not look the same as it once had because there's compromises that happen at this step. But this is the final step that will happen in the Congress. Seventh step is the presidential step. The bills that have passed both houses of Congress will go to the president. The president can sign the law or veto it. He can ignore it too, which is a de facto veto or a pocket veto. Congress can override the veto with 2/3 of both houses. So the president, if he doesn't like a bill, he can kill it by vetoing it. But if Congress likes the bill enough, they can still pass it anyways. For example, if President Trump didn't like the police reform bill, as you can see signed right here in this picture, then both House and Senate can override that veto, and that might have happened if the president had not signed that bill. That's why a president will gauge if Congress and Senate will override him or her if he does not sign it, and so that really kind of gives an indication if they should. So that's how a bill becomes a law.